Sorry. I think we're live. We're live. Welcome back to another Epidose. These crazy people that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it.
And start 2 minutes early. Look at this.
2 minutes early. We're
Two
late,
minutes
bro.
early. We're late. Not according to my clock. It says it's 7:18. Oh, we start at 7:15. For some reason I thought we start at
Damn
7:20.
it.
I'm so used to starting late so much that I thought 7:20 is when we start. Okay,
Is
fine.
this a
The
millennial
mo-
thing or what?
Hey, we're just on colored people's time. It's all right. I'm
Wrong
brown.
what?
Colored people's time.
Jeez, man. What is wrong with you? Don't say stuff like that.
Come on, man. They said it in the 70s. Didn't you ever watch Fat Albert? Hey, hey,
Let's talk about something else.
hey.
All right. So what's your spiel? Start your spiel already and then get to the
Oh,
topic.
I have another terrible comment. So I was showing my
Do I have to
girl,
mute you?
maybe. I was showing my fiance the Adams Family movie, like the second one. And you know how on the scene where they have like they go to that summer camp Wednesday and her brother Pugsley, and they're all like super happy and everything, the campers or whatever.
Mm,
But like
I haven't seen that one.
they make the native, they have to do a play, right, of the first Thanksgiving.
Mm.
And so they make all the bad kids the Indians. And so my fiance goes, "Oh, back then, like it was okay to make fun of like the history and stuff like that." And I was like, "Yeah, it was a different time. This movie came out in 1993." And she's like, "How come every girl at the camp is blonde hair, blue eyed, and white?" And I was like, "It was a different time." Again, the movie was made in 1993. Yeah, it's just funny when you watch like older films, just like the differences. Anyway,
Ay, ay, ay. Older films. 93, really?
that's 30, like
40
oh,
years.
no, almost 40 years ago now.
You math hard.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, welcome to another episode of these crazy people that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. Please go ahead and slap a like on that like button. Throw a lamb chop on that subscribe button. Make sure you skewer that notification bell so you know whenever we're live, whenever a video of ours drops. Um, Today's topic is SALT. Wait,
All
LT.
T?
Yeah.
The hell's wrong with you?
SALT. Sorry. Spelling words, not my
Um,
best
did you start
ability.
drinking or something?
No, I actually didn't even have a coffee today.
Oof. So yeah, the reason why I want to talk about salt today is there's a little convo in Autistic Carnivores. I
Oh,
post,
insert that meme where it's like out of all the flavors, you chose to be salty. So there we go. You seen
you
that
know,
meme?
no,
Okay.
but
I'm
you can
done.
insert it
Go
if you
ahead.
find it.
Okay, that's easy.
So, anyways, yeah, I posted. In fact, I'll try and pull it up. I posted a post from Dr. Nick Lantonio. He's the guy who wrote the Salt Fix, and it's basically about salt. And some people chimed in. One of them might have been uh, somebody I really, really admire. That would be L. Amber O'Hearn. We always just call her Amber O'Hearn, but her handle's L. Amber O'Hearn, I think. And so, anyways, um, she seems to be of the opinion that we don't really need to have any extra salt, right? And that's not the first time. Not the first time that. Yeah, how am I going to bring that up on the screen? All right. Oh, okay. It's pretty big. This is your salty meme. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But so, anyways, Amber O'Hearn's not the only one that has this opinion. I know of, a number of carnivores who don't add salt, don't think you need to, and they seem to be fine. So, anyways, thought it would be a good topic to talk about, and then, of course, a lot of the reasons why Justin and I might add salt to our diet um, is probably somewhat unique, or somewhat specialized for one
It's
reason.
for the sexual thrill.
Here we go. What is wrong with you? Let me share your salty meme since we've got it on the screen and I want to take it down.
You sure you don't want to take it down? Well, it's not my meme. It's a classic meme.
Let's see here. Put this up.
There you go. All these flavors and you choose to be salty. There you go.
I'm not really sure this is on topic, but since you mentioned it, we might as well share it with the crowd. That poor woman probably has no idea she's a meme now. So, anyways, I thought we should talk about some salt because, of course, it's really popular to be on the lion diet, which is just be salt and water. And that turns things around for a lot of people, especially if they're really sensitive to, seasonings and stuff like that we most people eat all the time, don't even consider that they might be creating a problem, right?
Right.
So, and then we got you, Mr. Headache himself. Why don't you just run quickly through the whole sort of, what do you call it? Process or,
yeah, I'll just get started. It's quite all right.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil any of it, but I wasn't sure if we call it a protocol or a process. What do you call it?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it is a protocol.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So let's call it a protocol.
So anyway, no surprise to most of our audience, I'm sure, but the way I came to carnivore was because of horrible chronic migraines after a car accident. And well, I had chronic migraines. I seemed to be getting better. Then I got in a horrible car accident and they got a lot worse. So like anyone else, I turned to the interwebs because I hadn't really done any quote unquote research on migraines in quite a while with the internet and new YouTube and yada, yada, yada. And I stumbled upon Dr. Angela Statton. No, her doctorate is not in nutrition. It's in finance, but still Dr. Angela Statton. And her theory behind the reason behind migraines is that it's a sodium channel disorder where apparently the so-called migraine brain, as she calls it in her book and in her interviews, burns through sodium, and then the brain kind of peters out, becomes inflamed. There's a cascade effect, and thus creating the migraine, the pain, right? Because what a lot of people don't know is that the painful part of the migraine, now you can also have migraines without pain, but that's neither here nor there for this particular conversation. When you have the pain is actually the middle of a migraine, not the beginning of a migraine. So you have predrums or predrums, however you want to pronounce it, which is just like sometimes it's tiredness, sometimes it's yawning, sometimes it's light sensitivity, sometimes it's hearing sensitivity. It can be all these different symptoms. And then within about a day, typically get the pain, and the pain lasts 1 to 3 days. And then you have your postdrum, which is kind of like feeling like a neuroeconomist. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, ADS. I knew she was some kind of economist, but yeah. And basically, where you feel kind of like hungover after a migraine. And so to her, one of the main issues was that the brain burning through too much sodium, you don't get proper nerve jumps. Basically, I don't know, with the dendrites, it can get really technical. And I've gone over it a few different times, but it's always hard to keep all that stuff in my head. But basically, you have neurons that want to jump from one neuron to another so that we can have thoughts, think, and move.
Like frogs, neurons
Like
jump around like frogs. Is that how it works?
That is how it works. That's how it works in my mind. I know at yours.
Okay, we'll
and
run with it.
so basically, when there's not enough sodium, it can't jump or it gets clogged somewhere, and thus causing inflammation, and then the whole migraine process begins. And so she says, drink water with salt. Now everyone's on kind of a different protocol as far as how much salt and how much water. I was doing every other 8-ounce glass of water having salt, sometimes more than that. And I was drinking a lot of water and I was having a lot of salt. And that's kind of how I ran my carnivore journey the first 3 years plus, more or less. And, things have gotten better, but I'm still not entirely convinced that Angela Staton is correct, because she said, oh, when you're getting a migraine, take more salt. And that never
Stop you from freezing.
Yeah. When you get a migraine, take more salt. And that never seemed to stop a migraine in process. May have been too late. I don't know. But 3+ years now, I feel more or less truly migraine free. I do get the occasional, once every couple of months, once every maybe 3 months, when it's like bad sleep and I've been eating poorly and whatever, stressed out. Something like that combination, a perfect storm, then yeah, I may get one. But they're way less intense than they used to be, and they last sometimes close to a day, but I don't think I've had one last a full 24 hours anymore. But that last one, I want to say, was 3 weeks ago or so, but I had like some fries, some mashed potatoes, some red wine. Yeah. So, and not sleep and
Mashed potatoes.
I did have mashed potatoes. Yeah. I had some
Dare
mashed
you?
potato. I know, right? Well, when you're paying $120 for a meal, you got to try those mashed potatoes.
Do you?
You do. Sorry. Them's the rules. You could stay carnivore as long as the restaurant bill is under $100. I think that actually checks out.
Well, we all have different standards, I think. I mean, I went out Thursday. Friend Tom and Beth took me out. For my birthday, and went to a nice place. I took the recommendation because it was a ribeye. And it came with I think it was potatoes au gratin kind of thing, and asparagus. It all looked very nice, but I didn't eat it. I gave it to someone else. Yeah, Justin fell down the mashed potato hole and paid dearly for it.
Yeah. Well, when it has bacon, cheese. Yeah.
Now, if you told me to pick the bacon and the cheese out, it's like ripping the toppings off a pizza, A nice sheet of cheese floating on some tomato sauce with pepperonis and sausage or something like that. I've done that. It's not so bad. A little tomato sauce doesn't hurt me, but come on, man, don't eat those mashed potatoes next time.
I'll try not to. To be fair, I think I had like 3 spoonfuls of mashed potato. I didn't eat like an entire serving of mashed potatoes.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a big difference in just a little taste.
Right. Yeah. And like today I had a French fry with ketchup. So there you go. One. And I was able to stop myself at one. So nanner. Anyway, back to salt. Oh yeah. So the reason why Angela
possibly have more to say about salt.
Oh yeah, tons. The salt mines. So the reason why Angela Staton's protocol is more or less low carb is because of sodium being messed with carbohydrates and glucose. Basically, you're not like many things. the ingestion of carbohydrates interferes with the absorption and use of sodium. So you cut out the grains, cut out, go, low sugar or low carbohydrate, cutting everything down, and it helps your body better use, absorb, regulate its electrolytes. In this case, more particularly sodium, i.e., most people would know as salt, sodium chloride. Another thing about Angela Staton is she recommends iodized, regular old table salt. She says don't have Himalayan salt, don't have sea salt. She's concerned about the heavy metal particles in the Himalayan salt, and she's concerned about plastics and whatever in the sea salt. So she's a bit of an odd one in that she's anti what people consider the healthy salts or whatever.
Would she ever comment on the Redmond's sea salt? Because of course that's from an ancient ocean that dried up, not a currently wet ocean. So
yeah, I think again with that one, I want to say it was the heavy metals. Still, she believes that there's heavy metals at the bottom, I guess, or of these beds or something like that possibly sink down because by the name heavy metals, so they'd be down there with the salts. I don't know. I've tried all different kinds of salts. I have never noticed a difference. I haven't done a heavy metal test either, though, or a heavy metal detox. So
that might explain a few things, like the freezing.
A little bit of lead and mercury never hurt anyone.
Right. So anyways, yeah, and so Justin's got sort of a unique situation where he suffers from migraines, and part of the protocol that helped him was consuming more sodium. Now, let me ask you a question. Was there any sort of background on why this malfunction takes place and more sodium is required? I mean, what's going on that is it the sodium's being lost somewhere? There's not enough throughput, doesn't get to your brain because it's too far from your feet. What's going on?
Well, she states that the quote unquote migraine brain is a hyperactive brain. We're taking in more light, taking in more sound. Even our sense of smell is heightened or whatever. Very similarly to the autism brain. And so she says that the brain just requires a higher amount of salt to
so it's
function.
A consumption issue, huh?
Yeah, right.
The consumption of sodium outstrips the supply, so you need more supply. All right.
Right, especially on a standard American diet. I have recently greatly dropped my water and salt, and I haven't really noticed any difference.
Well, it is colder right now too. So
yeah.
It's just real quick. I'll just say 5150 keto girl said, I ribeye side mushrooms. So apparently she said some mushrooms with her ribeye, which yeah, I can see that once in a while. I mean, I don't eat mushrooms anymore, but I can't say I ever really noticed that they presented a problem. So there's probably lots of people that tolerate mushrooms. Of course, there's a lot of different kind of mushrooms. And then ADS says there are mineral analysis of Redmond real salt online. Very detailed table of all the minerals and amounts. Yeah, which I wouldn't surprise me if there was. So it's a lot of people's go-to salt because, the one thing I heard about the Himalayan salt, which, most of the Himalayan salts, we think of the Himalayas, you think as a bunch of Nepalese people mining it, but it's actually in like
Utah.
I think it's Pakistan.
Oh, Pakistan, right?
Yeah,
but
it's
I think
like
there's
the
also
far edge of the Himalayas where the salt is accessible. So that's where they mine it from. And I have heard that sometimes it is slightly radioactive. So usually it's your heavy metals that are giving off the radiation. So could be.
Why did I think Utah? Why do I feel like there's also salt that comes from Utah?
I think Redmond's is from Utah.
Okay, I'm getting it all mixed up.
Because there's dry lake beds, lots of dry lake beds in Utah. So, like, Salt Lake City, maybe.
The name has nothing to do with places are.
Okay. You geography hard, I understand.
Yeah.
You can't read a clock.
Well, I can read it. I just can't read an analog clock. All right. Millennial problems.
Do you own an analog clock?
No, I have not. I don't. I mean, yeah. No, I do not. Why
No.
would I? Why would you?
Because they're around. Just
I mean,
saying.
a lot of things are around. That doesn't mean I have to like put it on my wall or have it in
No,
my
I'm just
house.
surprised you don't have like some hand-me-down analog clock somewhere.
Why? I don't. I understand.
No, there's just
What?
lots of them. And, it's like, maybe your mom gave you one or something. Your grandma gave you one. I don't know.
I mean, when I was a kid, there was a great grandmother clock that
There
we
you go.
had, but I don't even know what happened to that clock.
What is the difference between a grandmother and a grandfather clock, by the way?
So the grandfather clocks are the big ones that are tall,
Mm.
right? And the grandmother is stout.
Never heard that before. Very interesting. Maybe somebody out there can verify this. Is this something Justin made up, or is this true?
I swear, because I always thought we had a grandfather clock, but then I was corrected. It's like no, we only had a grandmother clock because it's a stout clock. It's only about a foot high.
About a foot high.
I mean, if you want to buy me an old grandfather clock, I would love to lug a.
Yeah, you live on like the 4th floor, bro. I don't think that's
Yeah.
a good one. How are you going to get up there without Sherpas?
I could do
Gonna
it.
hire a
It's
clock
fine.
moving company?
Yeah.
Strap it on your girlfriend's back or something. Oh, yep. ADS brought up the Bonneville Salt Flats 5150 keto girl. So she Redmond's love. So I assume that means she loves Redmond's. And then she also said Roman numerals. So I'm thinking she's talking about clocks. And
Yes.
then ADS is talking about the world's fastest Indian. It's a movie from 2005, I believe. And yeah, it was probably run on the Bonneville Salt Flats. Just tying it all together there. Now, it's not too far from here where there's a lake bed where people race. You can go out there and drive your car some insane speeds called El Mirage. A lot of people go out there, break some records, at least in their own minds. So let's get back to the eating the salt. Let me show the post that started this conversation here, since I got it up.
How dare you? I don't know. Redacted.
Ta-da. Can you read it?
Hypertension is not a salt intake problem. It is a salt retention problem. Salt retention happens in the kidneys, which is driven by excess insulin. Lowering insulin by decreasing sugar and refined carb intake will improve your blood pressure.
There's some comments. Probably nobody can probably read them anyways, but yeah. So this is kind of, I posted this in Autistic Carnivores, and then people started chiming in, and I realized, there's the great divide: carnivore salt or no salt. I was like, well, we got to talk about that, don't we? So I got another post from Dr. Nicola Antonio somewhere too that followed that one up. So I'll pull up. But so in the conversation I was mentioning, I noticed, right now it's cool. In fact, it finally rained here. And this kind of weather, I certainly don't drink as much water, but I think that has something to do with salt consumption, because obviously you're going to sweat some salt out, but Amber was pointing out that your body sort of limits, self-regulates, and won't let you sweat out more than more than a certain amount, right? So you're going to retain enough salt to stay healthy, stable, alive, something in there. But also when you drink a lot of water when you're hot, and you urinate more, you're going to lose more water. If you're urinating because you're drinking tea or coffee or you're taking some sort of medication or eating too many mushrooms, maybe you're going to lose more sodium too. You're going to lose all your electrolytes. Um, yeah, and 5150 Girl brought up The Salt Fix, which is a book by Dr. James Nicolantonio. I did a video on it a long time ago, but if you want to read up on it, obviously he's kind of a pro salt guy. You can find that book easy enough, The Salt Fix. It's definitely on Audible. So, anyways, now we're back to clocks. How dare you?
No, I had to fact check myself. So now I'm even further disappointed because apparently the clock I had, or not didn't have, but the family had as I was a child was a granddaughter clock because it sat about, yeah,
You've been demoted.
I've been demoted. Yeah.
Been demoted. So, anyways, you sent me some link about clocks. Might as well put it up on the screen, right?
There you go.
Sharing
yeah,
the screen.
See, we're bringing down ancient knowledge. What's there to train a grandfather?
Now, are any of these clocks salt based?
I'm sure they're all salt based. I don't think I've ever had a clock that was not salt based.
Really?
Really? Yeah.
All right. Seems like a stretch, if you say so. So, anyways, there's this handy dandy thing about clocks here. Clock corner, of course.
You know what? How about the next
granddaughter?
The next Meat Mosaic challenge, post a picture of your clock.
All right. Yeah, last time it was feet. This time it'll be clocks. So, anyways.
Hi, Margie.
Hi, Margie. Notice how we take it upon ourselves to call her Margie, and she always calls herself Marge. So, anyways, I'll throw a link in case somebody's clock curious. So, back to sodium, and let me find. I'll tell you what. Let me throw out a link to the Salt Fix in case people want to look that book up. Seems like Sly's probably already read it, and I definitely read it.
Yeah, so the other part of the equation is water intake, level of fitness, how much you sweat. Some people just naturally don't sweat a lot. I really don't sweat too much, just even when it's hot. I have to kind of pat like a dog. I think I'm missing sweat glands. I'm more beast than man, I think.
You think sweat is a beastly thing and not a manly thing?
Well, to not sweat is a beastly thing. To sweat is a manly thing. I mean, because everyone kind of sweats at like different rates, right? I mean, 5 friends could go hiking up a 5-mile hike, and each one of them will sweat like a little more or a little less.
For sure.
Like there's some people that like 5 miles, they're just drenched. Like they need like a shower. Whereas me, it's like, I can do a little spritz. I'm good to go. I'm dry, so that's kind of interesting. That may play a role in it. Right.
Yeah. Trying to find a good link for this thing. Damn it. But anyways, the book's called The Salt Fix, Why Experts Got It All Wrong and How Eating More Might Save Your Life by Dr. J. Nicolantonio, Quarry Marshall from Dreamscape Media. And it's available on Kindle, audio, Audible audiobooks, hardcover, paperback, and even audio CDs. Is anybody out there on a CD player still?
A boombox.
Marge says she only sweats when she uses her T3. She has a T3 supplement. So, That's interesting. Yeah. So one of the points I was pointing out in the discussion was one, uh, somebody in the discussion might be from Canada and used to living in a colder climate, even though they now live in Colorado, I think it is. And then, I live in Southern California where it's not uncommon for it to be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Do I need to Celsius that?
Yeah, probably. For our international viewers.
100 F is 38 degrees Celsius. So, and there are warm parts of Colorado for sure. It can get hot in the summer there, but to higher altitudes, generally cooler. So, but anyways, being in a warmer climate, and then the other thing is I eat a lot of protein because I basically eat to lift. So I described it. So, um, when you eat more protein, you wind up wanting more water for sure. So, and I think that's just part of the process of processing protein is you need a little more water, right? So temperature and then size, of course. Maybe that has something to do with it too. Certainly, um, you know, I I made the point that on a my daily average caloric consumption is around, or my daily caloric expenditure is something around 4,300 calories a day right now. And of course, on big days, if I'm more active than usual, it easily goes to 5 or 6 thousand calories. And then that rare occasion where I went over 9,000. So
He's
when you're
over
that,
9,000.
yeah, when you're that active, you wind up drinking a lot of water. So
Especially when it's July or August.
mhm. Yeah, August, July, sometimes June. June, July, August, and then even into September, it can be freaking hot. We've had more than one hot Halloween here, that's for sure.
Right.
And then, we've had some Halloweens or some 4th of July's where it's cold out and people are trying to watch the fireworks. Like, why is it so freaking cold? But yeah, generally, you get a few months out of the year where it can be pretty hot.
And the occasional wildfire or riot in Southern California.
Maybe that's it. It's from breathing all the ash. You just need more sodium.
And it could be jobs. So if you're a welder, you may want to increase your salt in water if you're welding all day. Or working
Yeah.
in a hot warehouse, lifting, all that stuff. Firefighter, could you be carnivore, no salt, and a firefighter? Would that go well for you? I don't know.
I don't know. It depends on how many fires you go to. Firefighters wind up doing all kinds of things aren't necessarily in a fire, right?
Yeah. Oh man. So to get off topic, but sorta, I
Oh,
was
please.
listening. I was listening to that Joe Rogan with that more plates dates guy or whatever. I got like
Yeah.
3/4 the way through, but they were talking about David Goggins, and I guess
Yeah.
David Goggins is a smoke man or something
Smoke
like
jumper.
smoke jumper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that sounds kind of crazy, but also kind of cool. Like voluntary firefighter, I guess, basically, right?
Voluntary?
Well, yeah, isn't it voluntary? He's
No, they,
not getting
they they
paid?
get paid.
Uh,
It's usually a federal job and they get paid, but it's not a real high paying job.
mm,
It's a rough job because guys, they'll go into it. They'll be flown to a place where there's a fire, and we have reciprocal agreements with surrounding countries like Canada
right.
and Mexico and stuff like that. So they share resources. So you wind up getting flown to a remote location that's on fire, and sometimes you parachute in and you live there. You camp on the ground a lot of times because they can't always just uh set up a giant camp for everybody. Um, so the it's not for the um faint of heart. It's not for the people who require a lot of creature comforts. It's harsh conditions, usually outdoors, and so on and so forth.
Got it. So what's his job? What do they do? Like, how do they help?
Well, they fight fires. They fight wildfires.
Okay.
A lot
All
of
right.
it's done with shovels.
Hmm. Right.
So yeah,
Dirt, Martier than water. Got it.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure if they've got water handy, they do. But you know how it is. There's trees and brush and stuff are on fire. They're digging fire breaks, and sometimes they're doing back burns and stuff like that to burn up some fuel before the fire gets there. So just slow it down or stop it. It's all that kind of stuff.
So how much salt and water do you think David Goggins drinks?
I don't know. I don't. I loved his book. You can't hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
I read it a couple years ago, 3 years ago. I listened to it on Audible. Fantastic book. If you trying to choose, definitely listen to the audio book over reading it, because the guy's reading the book and then David Goggins comes in and adds more to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great book. I mean, he's one of those hardcore rah, go balls out all the time kind of guy. He was a Navy SEAL and everything. He started out, he was, as an overweight guy. I think he was an exterminator or something like
Yeah, he was
that.
an exterminator.
And he got tired of it, of just being overweight and stuff like that. And so he has a success story. He becomes this mega athlete. He does, I think he's done what's the really long marathons, the ultra marathons. His Navy SEAL, of course. He set some records. Like I think he set up a pull-up record. All kinds of crazy things. So I don't recall him talking about salt, but maybe we should ask him.
Yeah, we should ask him. As soon as he gets on the podcast, we'll ask him how much salt and water he has. Now, speaking of that, I've never done one of those electrolyte drinks, or what are those things called? They're really popular. Like
yeah, there's a lot of salt. I mean, Redmond's has one, and what's the other one we hear about?
Liquid IV is one of them.
Yeah, so a lot of people take those. I mean, obviously they're probably helpful for fending off dehydration and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're getting a little smarter in that dehydration linked more towards the electrolytes rather than straight water, which is kind of interesting, I guess. How do we survive without our clean IV water? Don't know.
Yeah, well, and there's the argument too, and I could see where people are like, well, how do we make it without table salt if we need salt, right? And that's a good question. I mean, some people speculated that when you're eating fresh meat right off the animal, it's going to have more blood and more interstitial fluids and stuff like that in it. And so, maybe there's more salt in it because the fluids haven't leaked out. It's possible, or maybe, and we do know that some of the primitive cultures still around today do seek out salt,
Well, it's also very tasty, and it could, some even say addictive. I'm not quite sure about that, but I've heard people say that salty food is
a good
addictive.
question. Should we see if there's any salt addicts out there?
I might be a salt addict. I don't know. I really like it. Like there's I could drink seawater. Like like it doesn't bother me,
How much seawater could you drink before you threw up?
I don't know, a gallon?
No, you can't drink a gallon of seawater.
The next time in Southern California, I'm gonna try and drink
out of your mind.
a gallon of seawater.
Woo! We could look that one up too. How much seawater can you drink? But sometimes and I'll throw it out there because I mentioned before, like, like Joe Zumbo, he usually puts like a gram of salt in a glass of water and drinks before he goes on a ride. Gets better performance. Probably does it running too, and it's pretty common knowledge among people who lift that if you have some salt water before you start your workout, you can generally lift more. So, anyways, let's see. 5150 Keto Girl says, I don't have a clock. I have an Echo, aka Alexa. And then she says, opioid addicts go for the salt or sugar while detoxing. There you go. I mean, I can think of several reasons why, person in detox might crave or just need more sodium. Sure. I'm trying to think, there was another point. I got the point about the we don't know how ancient people handled the salt thing, because obviously not everybody lived close to the ocean, so it wasn't like they had access to seawater or were necessarily eating.
Well, there was great civilizational contact because of salt trades, right? It was a luxury, right?
Well, salt was very expensive up until not that long ago, right?
Right.
That's where we get the word
The modern
salary,
world.
right? Salary.
Right.
I guess that sort of story goes back primarily to the Romans. That was part of the pay that the soldiers got, was they were paid partially in salt.
So if you're complained about your minimum wage, just be lucky that your boss ain't paying you in salt.
Yeah, what if you got paid in salt and peanuts? It's like, here you go, make some peanut butter. That's all you get.
Oh, I had a peanut today for the first time in like 6 years or something like that.
You had a peanut? How does that happen?
Or I had like 3 peanuts. I don't know.
3 peanuts.
Less than 5.
Less than 5, but more than 1?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was looking for that other post from Dr. Nicol Antonio that I put up, and I don't see it.
The electrolyte one? Electrolyte cheat sheet? No, I posted that one. Never mind. Yeah. Reasons to join Autistic Carnivores and Meat Mosaic. We post.
Yeah, a lot of the posts I make are in both. So, I wonder what happened to it.
So back to the original post. Yeah, hypertension and salt. So when we get our metabolics in order, we get a lot of other, hormones come into balance typically, electrolytes come into balance typically. And I think everyone's electrolyte composition and balance is just a bit different. We've had friends try to do no salt challenges and getting really sick within a week or so, or a couple of weeks with no salt. And maybe there's a transition period there, like most things.
Yeah, maybe you should taper off if you're going to try that, right?
Right. Yeah. It's hard to say. There's a lot of things that I'm like pretty, what's the word? I'm a carnivore zealot, 100%. Like, I believe zealot. There you go. Yeah.
Wow. How does the language just happen in you like that?
It's a gift.
I've never heard anybody pronounce it a zealot except you.
Zealot.
Oh, I know, because it sounds like the name of a anime cartoon or something. The Zealots.
There you go. Go Blue Laser. Anyway.
Blue Laser.
Go Blue Laser. Yeah. But when it comes to the salt, I don't see salt as harmful so long as your metabolics. I think some can say it makes you hold water. So if you really want to, if you really, really want to lean out, but you'd want to dehydrate yourself and not have salt, and you would really make your muscles pop. But that's like bodybuilder extreme, when bodybuilders are up on stage, they're not very happy. They're usually very hungry.
Yeah,
and thirsty.
Yeah, because you got to get dehydrated and make your veins pop and make those muscles look striated, right? So
Right.
that's a combination of getting yourself down to very, very little body fat. Shockingly, did you see the Joe Rogan with Ronnie Coleman?
No, I don't think so. Is
Oh
that
my
new?
god.
No.
It's relatively new, like
Oh, okay.
probably less than a month old, but
Mm.
I'm not sure maybe when it came out. But anyways, Ronnie Coleman was able to get his body fat down to 0.3%.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like 1%. It sounds insane, but 0.3%. Holy cow. Yeah, but the guy had a real natural talent for it. So, you know, when those even he seemed to tolerate things very well. Even the crazy diets, the crazy weightlifting diets, getting up in the middle of the night to eat and just eating chicken breasts and broccoli all the time or whatever it was. So he tolerated it well, but people at those competitions oftentimes are kind of emotional and stuff because they're fat deprived. They're eating tiny, tiny amounts of carbohydrate to keep their veins pumped up and help their muscles look fuller. But then they're also typically dehydrated. So, and the typical bodybuilder bulks up, gets big, and then cuts really hard, right? Really eating less, quite a bit less, especially fat. So not all of them do that, but it's pretty common for people to do it that way. So they tend to be
It's
quite.
winter. It's cutting season.
It's kind of like we talk about rabbit starvation, and you try and live on too lean of meat, you know, and people get the crazies from that. So they're doing it to win a competition.
Right.
So yeah, why don't people out there let us know what their take is on salt? I mean, I know the people that don't add salt tend to be a minority. It's kind of a newer concept as far as the carnivore community, anyways. But um, there have been people out there said, yeah, and I think one of the comments Amber made was like, well, I'm paraphrasing, so don't take this with a grain of salt. But she said something to the fact that like, why would you give your body the extra salt? Then because then it has to get rid of it, right? So it's kind of like a flip side way of looking at it. It's like, do we need that salt, or are we providing an additional burden for our system or for our body? The very systems of the body that have to regulate sodium. Or are we burdening it by eating salt and then it having to eliminate the extra salt? So it's a fair question. So, and it may vary from case to case, based on people's activity and climate and stuff like that, which is kind of my impression of it. So,
Well, I would say I take issue with the word burden. Some state that the state of ketosis is a burden on the body, right? Which is like it's a natural process. So that's kind of I'd be like, well, you would have to define what you mean by a burden on the body. In what way, what disease would you get from having, I mean, too much salt, but even the word too much salt is just like how much, I mean, we know the danger ranges more or less, right? But um their bodies are built to handle a hell of a lot of salt.
well, and it's like maybe if you eat too much salt, then your body does need to lower that level, so it must process it out, and maybe when it's doing that process it can't be doing some other process, right? So I don't know. I think it's a fair question, but my personal take is that at least most people seem to need to have some salt in their diet other than just what they get out of meat, let's say.
Right. And, of course, cramps, the leg cramps, ye old leg cramps, transitioning, being
Yeah,
on the carnivore diet.
of course we could argue for days about whether it's magnesium or sodium or potassium because
Right.
you know
Right.
we've
Well,
been
that's
all
another
around
thing
that
too
mulberry
is
bush.
I think when people go carnivore, they're probably also ingesting way more potassium than their body's probably typical used to as well. Because we probably don't, I mean, obviously enough to live, but I'm not quite sure if there's a whole bunch of potassium deficiency around out there. But if everyone says you go for the bananas, right? When it turns out they're a terrible source for
Right.
potassium, but that's
I
what you're
was just going to
told.
make a freely banana girl joke right there. Like, well, our potassium levels probably aren't any higher than hers were at that stage of her life, right?
So it could be there's an imbalance that way, that your body's not used to that much potassium coming in because you've increased your beef, which is a great source of potassium. And and the way the body processes. So I learned this from Angela Stanton. So salt, because you salt processes very quickly through the body, about 15 minutes, and then for it to go where it needs to go, get to getting where it needs to go. There you go. Whereas potassium, your body takes about 2 hours to extract it from the meat and then put it into your bloodstream. So there's a bit of an odd imbalance there as well.
So Vanessa says she's tried to lower her salt and she got a headache the next day. And again, I don't know, maybe you have to taper off gradually or whatever, or maybe we do need it. It's hard to say.
But it's cheap, so
it's cheap, so just keep eating it.
Yeah. If you find, I mean, it's good, it's kind of interesting to push your body just in case you end up in like a survival situation. And, you've got to have some of that raw squirrel brain without some salt. That might be a helpful skill,
How many squirrel brains did you have to eat to survive? Because they can't be very big. Just saying. Just living on squirrels. Just saying.
That would be the only way to not have that rabid starvation. Eat the brain so you get enough fat. Possibly.
Yeah, and 5150 Keto Girl, she mentioned Cole Robinson, so we might as well mention the snake diet, the snake juice, and all that. So certainly when fasting, people typically tend to need electrolytes if they fast for any, more than a day or two, right?
Right.
And damn, there's a point I keep meaning to make, and I keep every time I come up with another topic, I forget what it was. Oh, I was just going to say that my observation's been with carnivores in general is that salt tends to be the thing that gets rid of headaches, muscle cramps, and even like fatigue, like midday, like slumps.
Right.
But when you talk to PAs and doctors and dietitians and stuff like that look at lab results all the time, blood work and stuff like that, they frequently notice magnesium deficiencies, right?
Right.
And then you still have that component of people where, I think it's primarily potassium that's the cure. So, but my observation has been it's, usually for fatigue, headaches, and muscle cramps, it seems to be sodium, seems to be the most effective. So, and of course, all of these kind of can be used to compensate for one another to some degree as electrolytes anyways. So it's tough. It's tough to know what it is. So let's see. 5150 Keto Girl says, I made my own salt supplements before, and I have a salt lick for fasting. So anyways, yeah, I don't know. I've never thought about getting a salt lick, but why not?
I'd get a salt lick. Why not?
I know down at Tractor Supply they had like 50 pounders and they were cheap. You imagine when you got a 50-pound salt lick sitting in your house, and if you're like, "Oh, is that a sculpture?" And you're like, "Nope."
Just take it with you to the gym.
Yeah, sure.
Real
Let's just
salt.
make some salt weights. Wonder how. Yeah.
Hey, there you go. There's your next $1 million idea. Salt weights.
So 5150 Keto Girl says, I love Cole. He helped me during COVID. Oh, there you go. So yeah, Cole, the loudest, rudest Canadian of them all. But he apparently he helps a lot of people, and I'm sure Cole's a lot like Bart, where his online persona is loud and sort of obnoxious just to get people to pay attention. He's probably like calm, laid back guy in real life, like Bart, like easygoing, lighthearted. But then he's got to make videos that people actually. Maybe we should do that. Start doing videos where we're loud, obnoxious, and rude. Well, you do that anyways, but
Yeah, I do that anyway.
somehow we got to get you to filter out the racial shit because one of these days, can't do that, even if you are,
Brown.
uh,
Colored
would
colored
you
people.
describe it racially androgynous?
Yeah, racially androgynous.
All right.
Colored people's time is not a slur.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Ay, caramba.
Can we take a vote in the chat?
Yeah, why don't we just do that? Post your pictures of clocks and meat mosaic. Post your pictures of where that fine line is between a racial slur and a non-racial slur, and then let us know how much salt you need. I mean, I think most people don't even deliberately take a specific amount of salt. They just kind of salt their food, right?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people probably have no idea how much it really is, and it's probably like a gram or two a day. I mean, a gram of salt's a fairly substantial amount for seasoning your food,
Right.
or maybe even less. It's probably more in the milligrams, right?
Right.
Let's see. Phil W made a comment there. My body doesn't like salt at all. It gives me headaches and cramps and comes pouring out of my system when I eat it. I can go months without salt on a carnivore diet and I feel more flexible. So there you go. This is an example. There's somebody that does fine with no salt, and but there's plenty of them out there in the carnivore communities. I'm pretty sure Amber O'Hearn's not supplementing with any salt. So and then Miss Patricia is asking when we're coming to visit Joe Zumbo. I wish I knew. I don't know. Whenever I save up enough vacation hours, I guess, and I get my passport renewed, and probably do we have to get the
ID card for the
no
pestilence.
the modern pestilent thingamabobber.
Right. You got all kinds of noises happening over there, Tom. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Got a place to crash, Tom. Australia.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now one of these days, I'd love to go. I'd love
yeah.
to go to Sydney, and then
We have a
can you imagine?
carnivore world tour, pretty much, of people.
We
to go
make
see.
Joe cook for us every day, like he did here.
Right.
Get back in the kitchen, Joe.
Even one night he was like, Justin, you're gonna cook it, and then he cooked it.
Miss Patricia's hungry. Get back in there.
Good night, Keto girl. Great having
Good
you.
night.
See you next week, hopefully.
So before she's going to bed, but 5150 Keto Girl is saying that depends on your age. So I'm guessing that might have something to do with sodium intake as well. So there you go.
Or my other comment. I'm really not sure.
I guess the way we know is by trying. So like Vanessa obviously tried to cut back on salt, and maybe she'll try to get a little slower. Phil obviously doesn't need sodium. Seems to have a negative effect on him. So I mean, maybe the only way we know it's optimal for us is just experimenting.
Phil is an alien.
Marge says, when you coming to Florida? Yeah, well, I suppose in the next long weekend, maybe I can pull it off. You know what's weird is like it's much cheaper to fly from like Miami to Los Angeles than it is like anywhere else. Like you can go a quarter the distance on a plane and it'll cost you twice as much. So yeah, let me know when it cools down there in Miami, Mars.
Isn't it winter?
I think it's still hot over there. It sounds like. I think it's always hot.
It's like a different kind of Arizona.
When you come into California, Marge.
We all have places to go, so there we go. Carnivore travels.
Anyways,
because we're here in the world through carnivore.
We've been at it for an hour, and I don't think we know. Oh yeah, if Joe cook a kangaroo, he loves when we tease him about cooking kangaroos. We actually had him get some kangaroo meat one time. He's like, "Yeah, it's dry. It's kind of tough. It's all right." So, but definitely gonna eat some kangaroo if I make it all the way to
definitely.
Australia for sure.
And some koala if that's legal, or even if it's not.
Yeah, it's probably legal. People just hate on you for eating a cute little animal.
And some snake, maybe I can bring home
the
pet
inland taipan.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, Joe's gonna be all jelly now that he knows we were talking about him, and hopefully I get a. Joe wants to do some videos. His work schedule's changed up, so make some time on a Saturday so we can do some videos with Joe. Let's try and do that next Saturday if you unfreeze.
Okay.
Okay.
I was halfway paying attention, to be quite honest. Joe, video next Saturday, work schedule. Got it.
So Phil W says, I do think aldosterone has something to do with salt retention. All right. I think it's ALDOSTREO. Oh yeah, it is ALD. I don't know. It was like on a weird that character, the top and bottom of that character were like in between pixels, and I wasn't sure if it was an O or an A. But Miss Patricia says roasted
Echidna.
I don't know what that is. And we got all kinds of stuff we got to look up now. Aldosterone and echidna. All right. Put that on the menu.
There you go.
Joe's going to have some tall orders to fill. So anyways, we better wrap it up. But thanks, everybody. It was great talking to everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope that, we get some good comments either in the on the video or in the Meat Mosaic Facebook group, whichever. And let's see what people are doing as far as salt consumption. It's very interesting. I'm glad Phil was able to chime in because I know that no salt people tend to be a minority, but they need to be represented because it's like anything when you talk about high fat ratios, whatever it is. Only eat beef, don't eat chicken, don't eat octopus, don't put lobster in your ears. All the rules, it's good that people hear the
both sides, fair and balanced.
Sides. Yeah, I think it'll all help us figure all this out, and understand the ins and outs of the new information.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Clarity, hopefully.
Clarity. All right, everybody, let's we'll wrap it up and say goodnight. Thanks for being here. Make sure you send links to this video on to your friends and your enemies, right? Hey, look, Raymond F's there. He must have just got home from a concert. So, anyways, appreciate it. Love hearing your guys' comments. Love being part of the community. Don't forget, we got the little Telegram message group. If you guys want to join in, just look for Meat Mosaic on Telegram. We got the Facebook group, Meat Mosaic. You can join Autistic Carnivores on Facebook if you want. There's also the Meat Cult and Carnivory and Keto and stuff like that. They're kind of lesser groups. So anyways, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna get together with Vanessa and Raymond. Go have your In-N-Out here soon.
Haha.
For all you In-N-Out deprived people. All right, yeah, good vibes, Phil.
For sure.
Anything else, Justin, before we close her down?
No, it was a great little chat. Great to be here. Hopefully do it again next week. The holidays are coming up, so hopefully you can talk about that, see how people are doing with that. How's that going? Keeping it carnivore. There you go.
All right. All right. Stay salty or don't. Take care.
Take care.
Don't fall down that carpool.
Hole.